Welcome to Devotions from Israel, a 5-minute word of encouragement. Today's passage is John chapter 6. It's been said that of the four Gospels, Matthew is primarily about the words of Jesus. 5 primary messages or sermons are preserved in Matthew's Gospel. Mark is primarily about the works of Jesus. Luke is more or less a chronological order of the life and ministry of Jesus. And John gives a theological overview of who Jesus was, his deity. All of the I am statements, for instance, are recorded in the book of John. Well, John chapter 6 is a very interesting chapter. It comes, really the end part of that chapter comes after a very major miracle that Jesus did on behalf of the multitudes. Most likely on the north end of the lake near Bethsaida, Jesus feeds more than 5,000 people. People come to him wanting to hear about his kingdom message, but they were also in a remote area, and Jesus fed them miraculously. After this, Jesus walks on the water. This event is recorded in Matthew 14. And it's Peter who gets out of the boat, if you recall that storm narrative. Well, the next day, as we pick up back in John 6, the next day they land on the western side of the lake, and Jesus and his disciples go into Capernaum. Now, Capernaum was where Jesus established his home base for his ministry here in the Galilee. So already Jesus fed people physical bread, and yet they were hungering for more, and Jesus knew it. So Jesus goes into Capernaum, and now the question is asked of him. So they ask him, "What sign then will you give that we may see and believe in you? What will you do? Our ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness, as it was written, He gave them bread from heaven to eat." Then Jesus listened to these words, said to them, "Very truly I tell you, it is not Moses who has given you the bread from heaven, but it is my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is the bread that comes down from heaven and gives life to the world." "Sir," they said, "always give us this bread." Then Jesus declared, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. But you have seen me, and still you do not believe. All those the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me I will never drive away. For I have come down from heaven, not to do my will, but to do the will of him who sent me." You see, Jesus is sharing his purpose, his redemptive purpose, for coming to this world. And then Jesus continues and says this, "Very truly I tell you, the one who believes has eternal life, for I am the bread of life. Your ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness, yet they died. But here is the bread that comes down from heaven, which anyone may eat and not die. I am the living bread," the second time Jesus would say this, "that came down from heaven. Whoever eats this bread will live forever. This bread is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world." Then the Jews began to argue sharply among themselves, "How can this man give us his flesh to eat?" You see, they didn't realize Jesus was speaking metaphorically. But Jesus would continue. "Truly I tell you, unless you eat of the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise them up at the last day. For my flesh is real food, and my blood is real drink. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me, and I in them. Just as the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so the one who feeds on me will live because of me. This is the bread that came down from heaven. Your ancestors ate manna and died. But whoever feeds on this bread will live forever." And he said this while teaching in the synagogue at Capernaum. While we see only a 4th or 5th century synagogue standing today in this city called Capernaum, or the village of Nahum, most likely the 1st century synagogue is below this 4th or 5th century one. But the point of encouragement today is, are you hungry for Jesus? He is the living bread. He is the only spiritual bread, and when we feed on him, he sustains us, he nourishes us, and he equips us for service in the kingdom. So be encouraged today. Jesus is the bread of life. Until next time, shalom.